What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Between the Tackles, episode 44. Week 2 is in the books. Week 3 is coming up. We're right in the heart of football season. We can't wait to get into talking about this with all you listeners out there. I'm your host, Burge. Back again with me, finally, after a 1-week absence. The guy I hate, but I love, Mr. Hogan. How are you doing, buddy? Welcome back.
I'm all right. I'm glad to be back. My 1 week hiatus. Obviously, I know all the listeners out there were like, "Oh, well, we're not listening since Hogan's not around." So I'm back. Welcome back, listeners. I'm here. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Just had a little confliction with the schedule, but we're back in business, baby. So I'm excited to be here. I'm also a little excited, Burge. I think we got some news to break to people. What do we got going on?
We got some fantastic news for the podcast. Our good friend, once again, is no longer just a good friend. He is a full-time contributor now on the Between the Tackles podcast. Manish Mehta, welcome back. We are happy to have you aboard full-time with us. Love talking football with you. How are you doing tonight? Thank you for coming on.
I'm doing great. I appreciate the invite. I think if you would have told me like 10 years ago that I would be doing a podcast with two Patriots fans, I would probably not believe it. But no, this is going to be fun. I really enjoy the insight that you guys provide. I hope the people watching and listening will enjoy it as well.
Absolutely.
We're excited, man. We're excited. We can't be more appreciative and thankful that you decided to come on with us and ready to talk some crap. Like I said, I already gave you some razzle dazzle about that Sam Darnold take last week. So let's get into it, baby.
Hey, at least you got some very reasonable Patriots fans on here, right? You don't have a reasonable Bills hater, but you got the reasonable Patriots fans on here. So really excited to get into this. So where are we going to start? We're talking about the Patriots. We're going to Patriots week 2. What a disappointing day for me. I was watching that game. The Patriots dropped to the Seahawks in overtime by a field goal. Felt like the Patriots were kind of in control most of this game. And just at the end, they had, kind of what we expected to see with the Patriots, the kind of the brain farts, the lack of execution when it mattered. And they end up dropping the game in overtime. Hogan, what were your thoughts on this game?
Honestly, I was encouraged by it. I was encouraged mostly by the fact that this Patriots team is competitive. And honestly, I'm thrilled by that prospect because last year, I've said this multiple times at this point, I wanted to turn my TV off after either the first quarter, the first half. It was just an abomination of a team last year. And I know there's plenty of fan bases out there that can attest to that with watching their teams. But something that I wasn't used to because it was like even when the Patriots weren't guaranteed to win, they at least made it interesting or fought or, made a valiant effort. The team before with Mac Jones and just everybody just seemed to give up every time they got on the field. And this team does not have the personnel to win. I know you don't want to hear that, and it's just the plain facts. Like they're not going to make the playoffs, or if they do, they're not going to go far because they don't have the personnel to compete with the upper echelon teams. That being said, they fight. They punch you in the mouth. They give you their best shot, whether they win or lose. It's exciting to see. Seattle didn't hold back. Like Seattle had to go for it on fourth downs. They had to block a field goal. They had to do a lot of different things to beat this Patriots team. And it was super encouraging to see that, hey, we gave our best effort. It wasn't enough to win the game, but we're not going to let people walk into Foxborough and just take it like I initially thought this team was going to with the personnel they were returning. So, yeah, the loss sucks, but the moral compass is starting to swing in the right direction. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing for me is they're not turning the ball over. Like you kind of expected that with this offense, but like Jacoby Brissett is flawed. We all know that. We know what he was when they signed him, what he was going to do, what his limitations were. But I think he's exceeded in terms of my expectations, despite me being outside Sunday afternoon, being like, I'm done. I don't want to watch this guy anymore. He protects the ball. He pulls it down and takes off and gets out of the pocket when the pressure's coming. And he's safe with the ball most of the time. He hasn't been burned yet. There have been some errant throws that have been like, yee, but for the most part, he's been controlled. And I've liked what I've seen in terms of his veteran presence out there. Ramondre Stevenson continues to just be awesome. Antonio Gibson looked fantastic in this game. The running game just continues to be the strength of the team, which is what we expected it to be all year. It's just the discouraging thing is seeing the wide receivers not involved at all. I think they had one or two catches in the entire game. And that was concerning. Hunter Henry looked very, very good. The defense again had their moments, but they, for the most part, were very good. Keon White still showed up. I agree with you with the encouragement part and the fact that they're fighting, and it's much different than last year. And I'll take losses like this at the end of the day if I can be roped in watching the entire time. Manish, do you think the Patriots are? I mean, I'll start off by saying, do you think that they're better than what they were expected to be, and do you think that they are gonna maybe play a spoiler at some point down the road this year?
Well, I certainly think they were in much better shape than Carolina, for example. They're also in rebuild mode, and they've had 2 non-competitive losses, whereas the Patriots had a significant upset in Week 1, and as you said, where they were competitive, probably should have won last week. So that bodes well for the foundation that Gerard Mayo is setting. What I will say is they do need to diversify their offensive portfolio, because for as good as the running game has been, and it's great to see Antonio Gibson be productive along with Ramondre Stevenson. If that 1-2 punch can help them be competitive in games. However, if you do want to actually win your fair share of those competitive games, you do have to get the ball out on the outside much more. And I think, Bert, you just alluded to it. The receivers actually had 3 catches for 19 yards, which that's not going to get it done week in and week out. You're targeting Hunter Henry, who is, an exceptional athlete in his own right, but you're not going to win very many games with that type of offensive formula. You can keep it close. You can squeak out a win here and there. But if you actually do want to get into the 6, 7, 8 win range this season, you do have to get the wide receivers involved. I thought in stark contrast, the way that the Patriots defended Seattle's defense is a bit concerning. When you have 2 receivers get double-digit catches, and I think that the Seattle wide receivers actually combined for 27 receptions, and that's something you don't usually see. So I don't know if that's a secondary problem. I don't know if that was a communication problem on the back end. Whatever it was, that obviously can't happen again. They're not going to face that type of wide receiver core on Thursday night against the Jets, but you can't give up 27 catches to the opposing receivers while your receivers only get 3. So there's obviously a lot of work to be done. But if I were a Patriot fan, I'd be much happier than if I were a Carolina fan, where that rebuild looks like it hasn't gotten off the ground yet. Whereas Gerard Mayo's team looks like there are some promising signs for for some good moments moving forward this season.
And I'll say this too about the defense and the wide receivers. I think there was definitely communication issues in the secondary. We saw it on the DK Metcalf touchdown where Kyle Duggar and Christian Gonzalez were lost. They were both went to the same guy. So somebody messed up and let DK just waltz right into the end zone. That was too easy. And, I think another thing that Seattle did in this game that I don't know if the Patriots were necessarily ready for was the tempo. Like they weren't able to sub their guys out. And, they were clearly having trouble getting set, for these plays when, Geno Smith and the offense would just line up and get ready to run another play. So that's something that you got to see them work throughout the season. I so much faith in this defense that they're going to keep the offense competitive or keep the team in the game and make it competitive for the offense to have a chance to put up points to win these games. That we saw it last year. Last year they lost 2 games by they gave up 10 points in 2 games or 3 games or something like that, and they lost all 3 of them. So if this offense is a little bit better, and that defense kind of keeps that same performance going, albeit last year they were down a lot of their main players. So injuries are going to be a factor for this team as well, because, we just found out Juwan Bentley, captain of the defense, is going to be out for a period of time. So that's concerning back there, especially when you're talking about communication issues on the defense. Hogan, do you think that the Patriots offense running game can continue at this clip? Because I sit on the fence that with Manish here about needing to diversify how they're going to approach these teams. Because it's when you're just a ground and pound type team, defenses are going to key on that. And then eventually, it's going to be figured out.
I gotta be honest with you. I mean, I love the ground and pound because, I'm my fatties. I got to support my fatties. We love to run block. That's what we love to do. End of the day, though, Ramondre got hurt last year. And again, I'm not saying he's going to get hurt this year, but the workload is already something that people are starting to talk about, where he had 25 carries in week 1. He had 21 carries against Seattle. He he's not used to that. He's not used to 20 plus carries where he wasn't the bell cow, even when Belichick was still here. And I know Gibson had a nice game, but you got to look at it realistically, where Gibson was a nice spell guy where he had realistically about 50 yards rushing. He ripped off that 45-yarder towards the end of the game that padded his stats a tremendous amount there. It was and if realistically, if you look at that play, he should have been blown up in the backfield for like a 5-yard loss. He just shedded a tackle and he made some amazing moves. That being said, Jacoby Brissett, I'm so conflicted right now because Jacoby Brissett is the guy I want to see the Patriots continue to go to, because I do not want to see Drake May play. We're all like, Manish is bringing up Carolina. The rookie quarterback dilemma that I always return to is just don't throw guys into the fire when they're not ready to play. You're going to do so much more damage to them. And Manish, I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on the Jets a little bit here. We all see what the Jets do to the quarterbacks when they're relatively new, right? Like Sam Darnold is a new man out in Minnesota. Geno Smith, new man out in Seattle. And what happened? They got thrown into the mix too early, and they just got damaged from it. Where now they're on other teams, and they're hopefully having success. I mean, all well wishes to them. I don't have any ill will against them now. But again, it's my fear that if we put May out there too early, especially with the caliber receivers that we have, he's not going to be successful immediately, and he could get banged up and he could learn some bad habits and whatnot, especially where he needs an offense that's going to be across the board coherent. Right now, it is a run first offense. We can't throw the ball. I mean, for Pete's sake, like Manish brought up, Jacoby Brissett threw 149 yards against Seattle. 109 of those yards were to Hunter Henry. That is not sustainable. You want to talk about Ramondre Stevens being a bell cow. Hunter Henry is not a bell cow. He's not a spring chicken. He's not going to catch 8 balls for 109 yards for you every Sunday or Thursday or whatever day of the week the Patriots are playing. They need to figure out to get this offense working with the receivers, or they're in trouble going forward.
There was a point early in that game where I think Hunter Henry in the first quarter had like 6 or 7 receptions. He was on pace to like shatter the NFL record for reception for the game. I was just completely and it seemed like everyone went to him for a first down.
But then what happened was you saw Seattle key in and go, hey, maybe we should cover Hunter Henry. And then all of a sudden, guess what? The passing game disappeared completely. Not a surprise.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, the benefit of all that, the running and the simplified offense, is that if it works, you control the clock. The Patriots have dominated time of possession in each of the first 2 games. It's sustainable only if you have a lot of belief in your offensive line. Hogan, you talked about rookie quarterbacks and the struggles that they typically have. And I'll go back to 2009, just keeping it in the AFC East, when Rex Ryan was hired and Mark Sanchez was their rookie quarterback. He was really a caretaker. They had Thomas Jones and Sean Green as a 1-2 punch. They had an incredible offensive line. So that's how I think that team differs, for example, from this Patriot team. While both teams, at least through 2 games, have good rushing attacks, clearly the strength of the Jets team was their defense, which was a top 2 or 3 unit as a whole, and their offensive line. And you can get away with having a rookie quarterback or a quarterback not do much and still win. You saw Seattle do it with Russell Wilson in his first year. They had a dominant run game with Marshawn Lynch, dominant defense with the Legion of Boom. So it's possible, but there's little margin for error in those other areas. I don't think the Patriots have a roster that kind of fits that mold. So that's why I said earlier, and Hogan, you echoed that sentiment, that they do have to do more than simply turn around and run the ball. When it works, you see them dominate time of possession, win a game, then lose a game in overtime. So it can work, but over a 17-game season, you really do need to get the receivers involved. Otherwise, you get predictable. They jam the box, they fill the box. They dare Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, whoever's under center, to beat you through the air. And if you haven't done it for the majority of the season, it's going to be difficult to kind of flip the switch and turn it on. So that's why diversifying is critical. I think that'll be actually a little bit difficult because the Jets' defense on Thursday night, their strength is the pass defense. The run defense has been leaky, a little bit better, actually much better last week against Tennessee, but their vulnerable spot is clearly the run. So as much as we're talking about diversifying the offense, maybe you'll see that in their first 15 scripted plays. But I think as the game wears on, so long as the Patriots don't fall behind early, I think they're going to stick with a similar script, especially on a short week.
Absolutely. That's a great segue. That's a great segue. I was literally you were talking about the Jets. I'm like, let's go into the game on Thursday night. We don't have to wait long to see if the Patriots are going to diversify their offense. They got to play the Jets on Thursday night. I hate the Jets. I hate Jets week, and I hate Aaron Rodgers. I just have a lot of hate. I don't know. That's why I do this podcast. I gotta come on here and get it out. But
this is the first time in a long time we can say that the Jets have a 1-game winning streak against the Patriots.
Yeah. What was it, like
I've been able to
10 years?
Something like that, right?
Yeah, so we're going in. I didn't catch any of the Jets game. They were behind early in that game, and they did obviously come back and beat the Titans. I don't know, Manish, did you see any of this game? And was it more the Jets actually coming back and winning, or was it more of the Titans kind of wetting their pants and giving it away?
Well, I thought I did watch the game, and I thought the Titans did pretty well in the first quarter and a half. Really, they led at halftime. It was a 10-7 game, I think, pretty tight. Tony Pollard was effective early, and then he pretty much got shut down after that. The Jets took advantage of a boneheaded red zone mistake by Will Levis when he tried to kind of shovel when he was about to be sacked. He tried to shovel it to Tajay Spears. He fumbled in the red zone. It cost the Titans 3 points, and I think that's what sparked that viral clip of Brian Callahan, looking at Levis as he's walking to the sideline with his arms outstretched, saying, "Well, what the f are you doing? So what the f are you thinking?" So the Jets definitely capitalized on that mistake in the first half. In the second half, you got to credit the Jets' offensive line, specifically their pass protection. They gave Aaron Rodgers some time. They weren't all quick throws. There were some longer developing plays in which Rodgers was comfortable in the pocket. I thought the touchdown pass that he had, I think actually, I don't know if it was the first or second half, the one to Breece Hall, that was a really nice pass. He had another one to Braylon Allen, the rookie, 20-year-old kid who's got, I think, a bright future ahead of him in the second half. The Jets were a completely different team in the second half. I think, they controlled that second half. And as I said earlier, they did a better job against the run, really significantly better than I thought they did on Monday night against San Francisco. Still a team that's run blocking is a little questionable. Breece Hall still averaging under 4 yards a carry through 2 games. So I think that'll be a great test if you look at matchups. Patriots run defense, the Saints and the Ravens are the only 2 teams with a stingier run defense through 2 weeks than New England, 3.3 yards per carry. That the Jets want to establish Breece Hall, maybe get Braylon Allen involved, but clearly establish some semblance of a ground attack to open things up for Aaron Rodgers in the second half. So a lot of good individual matchups, but I think if you're talking about what the Patriots absolutely need to do at the outset of this game, and I think it's to shut down the run and shut down Breece Hall specifically.
I'm not looking forward to seeing Breece Hall go off tomorrow. I can tell you that. I mean, he hasn't really impressed me a ton in the first couple of games, and I know that's not entirely his fault. Obviously, the offense kind of got behind quickly against the 49ers. They weren't able to do a lot of ground and pound in that game. It was always playing from behind. But what they did in Tennessee, I want to touch on Tennessee because I love to clown on the Tennessee Titans now because of what they did to my boy Mike Vrabel. I just will not let that go. I love seeing Will Levis just be a clown, just be an absolute freaking clown. Like that interception he threw against the Bears in week 1 was probably one of the most horrific things I've ever seen on a football field. And I couldn't have been happier. Could not have been happier. And then when he, you touched on, Manish, when he did that stupid lateral and I just saw him diving around like a Benny Hill character with that theme song playing, oh man, I ate it up. And I hate the Jets. And I was just like, I don't care. Let the Jets win because Tennessee is just, I don't understand. I think Will Levis actually does have the intangibles to be a decent quarterback in this league. I was on another podcast where somebody brought up the fact that he reminds them surprisingly of a younger Josh Allen, the way he throws his body around and makes really decent throws and stuff like that. But just he reminds him of Josh Allen because if you look back when Josh Allen first got in the league for Buffalo, he did that stupid crap where he was trying to lateral or make throws that he shouldn't be doing and turning the ball over. I mean, granted, he still kind of does that once in a while. That's why the Bills haven't won anything. You're welcome, Burgess. But yeah, that's Tennessee has too much talent right now to be 0-2. And the fact is, if you look at both of those games, they were both very winnable games. So screw Tennessee. Screw the Jets. Let's go Patriots. Hopefully they win tomorrow. That's where I'm at this point. I want to talk a little bit about another game that bothered me so much on Sunday. And I think, Manish, you know what I'm talking about because we had a little conversation about this pre-recording. And you and I were bickering back and forth a little bit about a little pass interference call there. I want to talk about the Chiefs and the Bengals, man. What the hell? Do the Chiefs need the help from the refs to win games? Is that where we're at this point?
I mean, I thought it was a pass interference. We talked about it before we started the pod, and I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not a Bengal homer. I'm not a Chiefs fan either. But your explanation is worth repeating to the listeners. I tend to think that it was clear pass interference because the defender did bump into the receiver from behind, and to me, whether or not he was going for the ball, the fact that there was actual contact makes it an easy flag for me.
So for those of you who are wondering what the hell Manish is talking about, I brought up earlier that I think pass interference is obviously a very subjective call already. And the thing that bothers me the most about pass interference is a lot of times you see it influence too many games and how they end. And I know there's a bazillion plays and you can't always come down to blaming it on one play that causes a team to win or lose, what have you. Go back to the Patriots game in the overtime loss to Seattle. Very, very questionable call called on Jonathan Jones against Tyler Lockett that actually gave Seattle I think it was a third down that they picked up the first down. They were going down the field. They kicked a field goal, game over. You never want to see a game end like that. But what bothers me is that I looked at that play on Sunday where the defender for the Bengals, from my perspective, because I despise the Chiefs, so I want to give the Bengals credit here. So I'm going to be biased here. But at the same time, objectively, I'm trying to be a little objective here. He was trying to make a play on the ball from my perspective. He was jumping up to attempt to intercept the ball that Mahomes threw. And the way that I interpreted it was Rashid Rice jumped into the defender kind of backwards, also going for the ball at the same time. When I look at pass interference, I'm more or less looking at, is the corner, safety, whoever, draped all over the guy, ripping his arm down, tackling him before the ball gets there. Yes, 1,000 times out of 1,000, throw the flag on those. I just think we're playing a sport now where there's so much predicated to the offense already with the advantages that the offensive side of the ball has based off of the rules that the NFL has installed over years and years, that you got to give the defensive guy a chance to go for the ball too. And that's part of the rules. So if you go back, I'll even go even crazier here. Like if you go back to the Seattle Patriots Super Bowl, Malcolm Butler ran through, who was that? Was that Baldwin?
Ricardo Lockett.
Ricardo Lockett. Malcolm Butler ran through the dude to intercept the ball. There was no penalty on that field because Malcolm Butler had every right to that ball that Ricardo Lockett did. That being said, obviously two very different circumstances here. What aggravates me is I see the Chiefs as the champions. They're the two-time defending champions. They don't need what is already preconceived help from officials to win games. And it's one of those things where I think if it comes down to it, where it's really a play that you sit there and you go, okay, like, do we really need to call it here on this? Probably not. I want to see the refs try and put the flags away. Because, like, again, I go back to another Super Bowl, Chiefs and Eagles. Sorry, Manish. I know you don't want me to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up. But, like, again, the way that Super Bowl ended with Juju with that questionable call that gave the Chiefs that, extended that drive. You don't want to see a game, especially a Super Bowl. You don't want to see a Super Bowl end like that. But even a regular season, this has big implications because Kansas City went 2-0. The Bengals are now 0-2. And I know they historically have had bad starts with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, but like that could mean home field advantage in the playoffs. That could mean a lot of different things at this point. So, all right, rant over. Somebody else talk.
I just went and I watched the clip again. So I can see both of your points on this. I'm going to play both sides of this because if you're just watching it in real time, I'm with Manish. It's clear-cut pass interference. Just in a vacuum, don't care about the situation, anything like that. It's pass interference. If you slow it down and you look at it, Rashid Rice is trying to jump backwards as the Bengals defender is coming forward for the ball. So it is early. The contact is early, but I feel like it was created by both of them. And in a league that babies these offensive players, these wide receivers with these ticky-tack holds and the ticky-tack illegal contact and all that. Maybe I'm just an old guy now and I'm thinking back to 20 years ago when you could maul a receiver and get away with it. It's one of those calls that I'd like to see not thrown because it is such a game-changing play, but at the same time, I can understand why they called it. I have a problem with the fact that they missed 2 holds on that play on the offensive line of the Chiefs. And it's like, all right, if you're going to call that, why aren't you going to call the defender as Mahomes is kind of scrambling around out there as his defender is being held as he's trying to get away from his block?
And for everybody listening, we obviously realize the irony of Patriot fans complaining about officials right now. So don't come at us. Don't come at us. I'm throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there. The irony is not lost on me, but at the same time, we despise the Chiefs. So yeah, fuck the Chiefs.
I hate when the refs insert themselves into these games. And we saw it early in week 1 and obviously in the preseason. Hogan and you and I were talking about the illegal formation with the offensive lineman 6 inches back from the line where he was supposed to be. And, we saw it carry over into week 1 in the opening game with the Ravens and the Chiefs when we were on the live stream. The ticky-tack stuff.
How many calls did the Chiefs have against them for illegal formations in that game? Anybody want to answer that question?
I have no idea.
You know the answer? Is it 0?
0. Mic drop.
Just good coaching by Andy Reid.
Oh, stop it. You stop it down there. I don't want to hear it.
I will say this. And this is probably maybe a little bit of me being like, what to feed into the conspiracy theory. All right. And this is a greater scheme of things as it comes to involving Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. This stat, I've came across it on Twitter yesterday. Over the course of his 6-year career, Patrick Mahomes has had 17 interceptions overturned by penalties. Tom Brady had 17 interceptions overturned in his 23-year career.
Wow.
And Lamar Jackson has only had 3 in his career overturned.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Did Tom Brady ever have a fumble overturned?
No.
Maybe playoff
game? No.
I was just wondering, like I said, just asking a question. Maybe a fumble that spawned a dynasty or no? Am I thinking of a different player?
Yeah.
You're definitely thinking of a different player. I don't know what you're talking about. There was never a fumble in question anywhere in Brady's career, okay?
That's funny.
God bless the Tuck rule. God bless the Tuck rule.
Look, here's the thing about the refs. Like every fan base is upset at various points in every single game because there's a lot of bad calls. There's a lot of no calls. First, you talked about the holds, and you know this, Hogan, and being a lineman, like there's holds. When people say this, it's actually true. There's holds on every play. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of whether the ref calls it because he's in the right angle, he can see it, or he's looking at something else when it happens. So the refs,
he feels like it.
I say the refs suck at least twice every time I watch the Eagles play. At any game, they do suck, and they're different people, so it's not personal against any specific referee. But the game is so fast, it's moving so fast. Frankly, they don't have enough refs on the field, but you can't crowd the field with refs. So I don't really know what you would do other than give control to the brain trust in New York. So they're going to miss calls. It's just a matter of what's the circumstance, how much time's left in the game. Because if this play had happened, this pass interference call had happened in the second quarter, you probably would have said it was a bad call and moved on. But because it happened in crunch time, the eternal question is, should you keep the flag or in your pocket when it happens, even if you think it's a foul because of the time and the circumstance, or in a vacuum, does it look like a foul to you? And regardless of the score and how many seconds are on the clock, you're going to call it. I think that's really what it comes down to. I learned a long time ago as a fan, not only for football but other sports, complaining about refs is great with your friends. You can chat about it, text about it, but ultimately it's out of your control. It's out of the player's control. And I like to think, maybe I'm naive, but I like to think that this kind of stuff evens out over the course of a season. Maybe it doesn't, but it just you bring yourself a lot of undue angst by pointing to one particular play and say we lost because it was a bad call on this or a bad call in that moment. Ultimately there's the 120 plays in a game, 120 plus plays. They all count for something that ultimately lead to whatever the result's meant to be.
And that's 100% right. That's 100% right, Manish, because I'll sit here and I'll bitch about the refs nonstop. Like if you had listened to my first podcast that I did with Puma, it was like every week. Just I hate the officials. I hate the refs. They always end up finding a way to screw up a good game. At the end of the day, we all know the refs don't lose the game. Good teams overcome bad officiating, and that's just what it is.
Look, even and before there was I'm dating myself a little bit, but before there was even instant replay, some of the biggest games in NFL history, the iconic moments were penalties that weren't called. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day. I don't know if you guys know what the origin of the term Hail Mary is in the NFL. It was a playoff game in the 70s with Roger Staubach, Cowboys versus the Vikings. Cowboys were about at the 50-yard line, somewhere around midfield. They needed a touchdown to win. Roger Staubach threw a deep pass into the end zone to about the 5-yard line to Drew Pearson. Clearly was offensive pass interference. You could watch that play 100 times, and 100 times I would say 100% of the people would say that's offensive pass interference. It wasn't called, and the Vikings lost the playoff game. And after the game, they asked Roger Staubach, if he could take us through the play, what happened? And he said he just got to the huddle, said like 3 Hail Marys, and threw it up in the air, and that's how the term was coined. And and that's one of the it's an iconic phrase in football, and it was born out of a play that really should have been flagged and never really counted.
That's an interesting tidbit, because I honestly didn't know that was the origin of the.
Look it up on YouTube. It's the most egregious offensive pass interference you'll ever see. There's also a play in the Super Bowl with Denver and the Cowboys. I can't remember who the player was in the 70s. Cowboys player clearly did not catch the ball. He dove, caught in the end zone. In today's NFL, it would have been overturned before they even went to replay. It would have been overturned when the refs kind of huddled on the field. But in the 70s, no replay. They called it a touchdown. Obviously wasn't. So, football history is filled with egregious calls, much more egregious, believe it or not, than what we have seen in today's NFL. And at least we have the benefit of challenging and replay. When you didn't have replay, the number of horrific calls, I think, was exponentially more than what you see in today's football.
That's true. I guess my only counterpoint to the replay thing is like now we have too much where it's like you see I go back to week 1 with Chiefs in Baltimore. It's like Isaiah Likely, like literal inches, and it had the camera angle not been at the back of the end zone like that. That could have been a good call. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
So it's I agree with that that aspect. It's just again, I go back to the problem I have is there's so much subjectivity to so many of these calls. And it goes back to something that we discussed in the off season as well, when they brought in the whole hip drop tackle, because I go to the Texans, right? Joe Mixon, he was screaming after the game, where the hell was my flag for hip drop? And he got injured. He came out of the game for a little bit. And it's like, again, that's where the ref, I would never wish to be a ref in any realm of possibility, because I just could not live with that kind of like torment, knowing that everybody on the planet hates you at some point. But I mean, it's just I don't understand how we don't have clear cut definition of things at this point. Like it's still a catch is what is a catch, right? Like what's a catch? What's pass interference? There's so many ticky tack things, and it's just I'd love to get to a point where we don't have to question anything, where you, like you said, is I can watch a game and sit there and go, they got it right. Good job, ref. You know what I mean? But like, I know that's never realistically going to happen unless we go to like AI machines or robots or something. But like, even at that point, I mean, I don't think football is going to be football. So I digress. Give me a next subject. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Screw the Chiefs. Like I said, I'm done with the Chiefs.
The only thing I want to talk about from week 2 that really, we'll say, surprised me, and that was the Saints. The Saints just absolutely blew the doors off of the Dallas Cowboys. And, for me, I didn't really think anything of the Saints. I'll be honest with you. Like, I was just kind of like, okay, like the week 1, they blew out a bad Carolina team. Like, awesome. But now they go on the road into Dallas and absolutely blow the doors off Cowboys. Like, did the Cowboys have a bad day? Are the Saints for real? I mean, Rashid Shaheed, is that how you say his name? Rashid Shaheed looked unbelievable in this game. Another bomb. I think the week one was to him too. Just like, are the Saints for real? Like, do we have to start buying them?
Well, I guess we'll get a better indication after this weekend when they play the Eagles. I'm with you. I'm shocked. I didn't think just changing the offensive system and going with Clint Kubiak's system, which is a West Coast, offense, Mike Shanahan, style of offense. I didn't think that was going to suddenly transform Derek Carr into an exceptional quarterback. And I'm with you, Birch. Like, week one, I kind of discounted it almost or dismissed it because the Panthers are so bad. But the fact that they dominated against the Cowboys from the jump was eye-opening. Dropping 91 points in 2 weeks is almost unheard of in the NFL. And Alvin Kamara, I mean, I kind of left him for dead a year and a half ago. I thought he was getting banged up, getting up there in age, and he looks kind of reborn and looks just as good as he did, 4 or 5 years ago. And I didn't think that was possible. We'll see if it's sustainable. But Clint Kubiak really has them playing, specifically Derek Carr playing at a very high level. The run game is a force. They're playing the worst ranked run defense in Philly on Sunday. So, I mean, I think they're going to move on, and we can talk about that later. But are they for real? Let's get through the first quarter of this season. Every coach I've talked to, I think I maybe mentioned it on the pod. Every coach I've talked to, breaks the season into quarters. So let's get through the first 4 games. It's not technically a quarter anymore because it's 17 games, but let's get through the first quarter before, crowning them in the words, the words of Dennis Green. So it's a good start for them. Let's see how they do against Philly, and let's reassess after the quarter, Paul.
I'm going to take the different route here, and I'm going to pick on Dallas. So for me, this game said more to me about Dallas than it did about the Saints, right? Dallas every year goes into the season, we them boys, this is our year, blah, blah, blah. That's all you hear from Cowboys fans and delusional Cowboys fans, blah, blah, blah. They got their doors blown off of them by the Saints. There's no question about it. Does anybody else who remember blew the doors off of them near the end of last season? The Green Bay Packers. So this is not something that's new for the Dallas Cowboys. And I apologize to all our Cowboy listeners out there, if there are any of you. I don't apologize because your team is overrated like it always is, okay? You have a decent offense. You have Dak Prescott, who I think is an above-average quarterback. You have CeeDee Lamb, arguably one of the best receivers in the game right now. You do not have a decent running back anymore. Ezekiel Elliott is not the same player he was. The offensive line is not the same offensive line it was when you guys dominated the rush attack. Your defense did not get better from last year. The only player that came back for this year that wasn't there last year is Trayvon Diggs. And he's coming off of what? A torn ACL, MCL, whatever he had. So that's not exactly something that's very simple to come back from as a cornerback. And then on top of that, too, they don't have the other guy that killed it last year. Was it Deron Bland? He's out right now as well. They lost Stephon Gilmore, who was a corner piece of that defense last year when they were doing as well as they were for a bit. Micah Parsons is realistically the only superstar on that defense right now. Van Der Esch retired. Like I'm going down the list here. Like they name the defense that is supposed to be blowing people out of the water with Dallas that they have right now. The reason why Dallas looks as good as they do is because they're in the NFC East, where you have dud teams like the Giants and the Commanders. They're going to get wins when they play against those guys. Versus the Eagles, it's a whole different story. Obviously, that's a great rivalry this year that I can't wait to see those guys face off against each other. Dallas is right now, in my eyes, a mediocre team. And they ran into a hot team being the Saints, who played a picture-perfect game against Carolina in week 1. And guess what? The Saints came out and I think they went 6 for 6 for touchdowns in the first 6 drives of the game, which I had flashbacks to that damn Buffalo playoff game, like 3 years ago when Mac Jones and company went up there and we lost like 47-7. I don't think Buffalo punted once in that fucking game. And I had flashbacks to that. That's when I don't want to see flashbacks on that. So I hesitate to say that the Saints are the real deal right now. Like I said, this game told me more about Dallas than it did about the Saints at this point. So going forward, let's like you said, Manish, let's pump the brakes on crowning the Saints. But at the same time, I look at this as, hey, Dallas needs to be like, like we need to fix some stuff now, or it's going to be another long season for them. Burgess, you're muted, you clown.
My bad. There we go. There's my screw
tried-
up for the night.
Yeah, there you go. I got you. Don't worry. I got you.
I was just gonna say we don't want to have a "they are who we thought they were" moment when we're talking about the Saints later on if they're not crowned. So, Manish, do you have any storylines you want to hit on before we move on to our Week 3 picks?
I think the injuries in general, I know we all play fantasy football, so everyone's well aware of it, but the star power that got hurt this past week, from Cooper Kupp to Isaiah Pacheco, AJ Brown, who didn't play the other night. I think Myles Garrett got banged up. I don't know how serious Justin Jefferson's injury is, but he got banged up a little bit. So it's a long list. Tua, of course, is going to be out for a month on IR. So a lot of high-profile guys getting hurt this early in the season. Really through the first 2 weeks of the season. It's hopefully it slows the rate of the injuries slow down, but clearly that's something that has impacted a lot of teams. Teams have to pivot. Chiefs move on, get a reunion with Kareem Hunt, and I think that the Rams are. I don't know what the Rams are going to do. They're going to try to find in-house solutions, but a lot of injuries to impact players across the league has really changed the dynamic, even of the playoff picture. When you think of Miami, they're the team that I think most of us, if not all of us, picked to win the division. Now it's a serious question whether they'll even be sniffing the postseason.
Absolutely. And, we were on the podcast this summer during the preseason, Hogan, when we were talking about it, how we didn't have any like high profile injuries through training camp or the preseason. And I sit here now and I'm like, well, maybe we jinxed it. My God. Like, because all these names are going down. The 201 is very, very concerning because of his history with the concussions and, the severity that we've seen and the condition that we've seen him in on the field after those concussions. And, not even from a strict football perspective, it's like, as a guy, as a human being, like, you don't want to see anybody go through that. Like, convulsing on the field and the arm in the air, you're out. You have no idea where you are when that happens. And I just hope he can get himself right, because that's just something that you don't want to see a guy by the time he's 40 in a state where he can't function because of the damage to his brain. So let's hope he takes his time and actually really evaluates himself and gets himself, in a good place.
And learn to slide.
Yeah.
Sorry. I not to rip on him, and I understand it's a hot topic right now, but like, you have the history you have, slide. Fall down. Give yourself up. Like, do it. Like, players have learned to do less, and he needs and like in that position, especially watching that game on Thursday night, what bothered me the most was like they were already down at that point. He had the first down. Slide. Just freaking slide, man. And then ironically, that DeMar Hamlin is the one that hit Tua too. That was just, I know that's like, again, just crazy, right?
I wouldn't even say he hit him. Like, Tua leaned into him with his head.
Ran into him. Yeah,
he ran into him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I know it's easy for fans and I'm sure his family to say, make sure when you're, in the open field, you slide. But in the moment, he's been playing football his whole life. He's a competitive player. He's probably just not thinking of doing that. What I choose to believe is that he's going to make the right decision for him and his family. There's been a million opinions on television, radio, social media about what he should do. I don't think that's fair. I think he's going to discuss with his family. He's married. He's got children. Obviously, his parents, extended family. They're going to make the right decision for them. And everyone's just what right is differs from person to person. So, I didn't particularly appreciate people saying he should do this, he shouldn't do that. That's his call. That's his life. He's obviously going to get some thorough guidance from neurologists. There's been an untold number of armchair neurologists that I've heard from that don't know the situation. They don't know his life circumstance. They don't know the details of his particular injury, what the ramifications are, what the long-term damage could be or couldn't be. It's easy for us to say you should retire, and I'm not saying he's not going to retire. I don't know, but after gathering all the information and really having a firm grasp of what his situation is, because none of us know. The none of us know his exact. Everyone's situation is different when they get concussions. Some people say enough's enough, like Troy Aikman, Steve Young, others. For whatever reason, their situation is different, and maybe the risk isn't as great as we might think on the outside, or maybe it's more dire than we think. But whatever it is, it's his choice, and this transcends football. It's much more important than football. So I didn't particularly enjoy watching, listening, reading about people who are saying he shouldn't play football anymore. That's a personal decision. It's not something that he's going to take lightly. So, give him as much time as he needs, whether that's over just the 4 weeks when he's on IR or whether that time goes longer. Ultimately, it's his choice, his family's choice. And I think no matter what decision he comes to, I think we should all respect it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Let's move on. Let's move on to week 3 because we got games starting. We're recording Wednesday night. By the time you're listening to this, we got a game tonight, Thursday night football. We're going to start a new thing here on Between the Tackles for previewing week 3. Don't have a name for the segment yet, so if we've got any suggestions out there, hit us up in the DMs. We'll give you some credit for naming our segment here. But we're going to start picking games against the spread. And we're going to keep track and see who actually knows what they're talking about and who's the biggest idiot on the podcast. Hogan. Let's see where this goes. I'm going to start off. We've all decided we're going to pick 3 games against the spread, and we're not going to overlap each other on this. We're going to do our best to not overlap on this with each other. May pick against each other, we'll see, but we're going to go this route. So my first game that I'm going to pick, I'm a homer. Let's be real. I'm taking the Patriots +6 tomorrow when you listen to this tonight against the Jets. We were talking a little bit about this before the recording with Manish here. I think there's a chance that the Patriots could pull this one out. The Jets are always going to be the Jets, no matter what. No matter what happens to me, they'll always be the Jets, even if they're better. But I think there's a chance that the Patriots could win this outright, but I think it's going to be another close game where they very easily could cover the 6 points that they're being given right now. So give me the Patriots +6. Next game, I'm going to pick a team that's looked pretty good through the first 2 weeks, going on the road to the Steel City, and that's the LA Chargers under Jim Harbaugh. They're +1.5. I'm going to take the Chargers. I'm not really a huge fan of the Steelers right now. I think they're more pretender than contender if we're going to put the name to it. I don't have a whole lot of faith in, Justin Fields and, that offense right now. I love what J.K. Dobbins and the Chargers look like. So let's see how that works in Pittsburgh. My final pick, I'm going to pick against Manish's team. I'm going to go with the Saints, the team we talked about. -2.5 is what they are. Down in New Orleans against Philly, and Philly kind of, melted down on Monday night, and the Saints are the Saints right now until they prove me wrong. So give me the Saints. Hogan, you go next.
Ooh, baby. All right. I got some good ones for you. First and foremost, I want to go back to the team I love to clown on, you Tennessee Titans. Give me the Packers. Give me the Packers +1.5. I love the storyline here. Malik Willis getting traded right before the season started to the Packers, and then Jordan Love. Obviously, I don't love Jordan Love going down, but I love the storyline here. Malik Willis returning to the team that drafted him, and I want to see Willis have the same success he did last week against the Colts, where he kind of shocked a lot of people. If you saw that game, I think he was like 11 for 12 or 11 for 13 or something. Like, he had like a really good stat line in terms of passing, like what he did, and then rushing the ball and everything. And granted, I don't think the Colts are world beaters by any means, but like he did what he needed to do. And I think Matt LaFleur has a great handle on that team, even with Love being out right now. Love to see Josh Jacobs keep the rushing attack going. And give me Will Levis for another stupid turnover that I know he's going to give me. So yeah, give me the Packers +1.5 on that game over there. The next game, kind of going off what we were saying with the whole Dolphin situation with Tua right now, I like the Seahawks -4. It's a home game for Seattle. I think this game would have been a fantastic matchup had Tua not been injured. I would have loved to have seen how this went down. I don't think Skylar Thompson is the answer there up for Miami. I know they still have a lot of firepower on offense with the skill guys they have. you got to have a guy that can get the ball around to those guys. And you could see after Tua went down against Buffalo that Skyler was just struggling a lot. At that point, they had already pulled a lot of their players anyway. So I like Seattle to go 3-0 this week. And then my last game, upset alert here. 49ers were already upset once last week by Manish's old buddy, Sam Darnold, and the Vikings. Give me the upset once again. The Los Angeles Rams are they're projected to lose by 7 to San Francisco. I think the Rams are going to pull off either an upset, or I think they're going to cover the spread at least, or they could go all the way and shock the 49ers and get their first win. Injuries galore. I don't care. Give me Matt Stafford, crunch time. I want to see him perform. I want to see a good game there. Rams to cover the spread.
Let's go. Let's hear it, Manish.
All right, first game, Lions at Cardinals. Lions coming off a pretty tough loss there. I don't think they'll lose twice. I think Cardinals looked explosive against the banged-up Rams team. I think it'll be some tough sledding for James Conner against a pretty stout Lions front. And even though the Lions are given 3, I think this has potential to be a blowout. I think it has potential to be a double-digit win for the Lions on the road. So give me Detroit. The second one, I'm a little shaky on. I also not particularly fond of betting on the Cowboys, but I'm taking the Cowboys to beat the Ravens. It goes against my instincts because the Ravens are 0-2, desperate, good team, 0-3. I think we all know what the odds are of making the playoffs when you start 0-3. You're not very good. So I think Harbaugh will have them ready to play. But after the Cowboys got embarrassed by New Orleans last week, I can't see them, just laying down again. I think they got too much pride. I'm not a huge fan of Dak Prescott, but I also kind of think he's underrated, better than a lot of people think. Yeah, the running backs aren't that good. I don't think anyone's going to run on the Ravens anyway, so I think this is a Dak Prescott game. CD Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, a name to remember, a young wide receiver that they have. Keep an eye on him. Brandon Cooks can sprinkle in a few catches here and there. I do think that they will not get embarrassed at home second week in a row. I think they bounce back. I think they win. Unfortunately for Baltimore, that puts them in an 0-3 hole. I don't know if they can dig out of it, being that they're in such a not only a tough conference, but a tough division. So that's a game, again, I'm a little shaky on, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys. And the last game, I'm going to disagree with you, Hogan. This it's not my lock of the week, but because I don't like picking locks, picking a team that's 0-2 to be a lock of the week in Tennessee. But I do think Tennessee is going to beat Green Bay. Malik Willis, nice story last week, a little shot in the arm for the team after Jordan Love got injured in Brazil. I don't think he's particularly good. The stat line may have indicated otherwise last week, even though there is a revenge factor there with Tennessee getting rid of him. I think Tennessee, frankly, should have gotten rid of him because he stunk. And I don't think he's actually very good at all. So I think it'll be really tough for Jacobs to run against a really stout run defense in Tennessee. And yes, Will Levis makes some boneheaded mistakes, but after being embarrassed, undressed by his coach in public on the sideline last week, I think he'll minimize those mistakes. I'm not saying he's going to be turnover free, but I don't think you're going to see another boneheaded turnover, certainly not one in the red zone. I think this is a big game for Tony Pollard, a big bounce back. Tennessee, also a desperate team in 0-2. I can't see Malik Willis winning on the road against a team that has a solid defense, and I think that's what this revamped Tennessee defense is. So not a lock of the week, but I'll give the points, and I would not be surprised, much as I said I wasn't surprised that the Lions could win by double digits. Even though Tennessee's offense is a little shaky, I wouldn't be surprised if they won this one wire to wire.
Well, there you have it. There's our first segment of our picks for the week. We missed 1 week, we missed 2 weeks, so we're in week 3 now. Week 1 of the Between the Tackles picks. When we come up with a better name, we'll get it to you. So just to quickly recap, I have Patriots +6, Chargers +1.5, Saints -2.5. Hogan has Packers +1.5, Seahawks -4, Rams +7. Manish with the Tennessee -1.5. We have Dallas +1, and the Lions, I believe, were -3 on my end. So somewhere in that ballpark. Those are our picks. We're going to try to get a graphic out so you can roast us, support us, however you want to do it. And we'll have some fun talking about this next week because one of you two is going to be right. One of you two is going to be wrong.
That's right.
Hope Hogan's wrong. It's always fun when he's wrong. So,
all right, go mute yourself again.
Can we make it clear to the audience that I picked last, so I got the leftover games?
You did.
Okay.
You did pick last. Yeah, you did pick last. You did. Yeah, we're gonna have to rotate that. We're gonna have to rotate that.
Yeah, look, if I come away 1-2, I'll be happy. I'm fully expecting an 0-3 week.
That's usually what I'm good for. So, so we'll see. Real quick before we wrap it up, I just want to touch on fantasy football because Manish, when you and I talked last week, I had an absolutely horrible week fantasy wise. This week was much better. The only league that I lost was the league that I lost Pacheco. So, much better for me, but the injuries are starting to mount up. I do have Lamb. I do have Jefferson. We'll see where those injuries play out. How'd you make out this week?
I am 2-0 in a league in which I've been in for 31 years. And my other league I've been in for like 15 years. I won on, I'll keep it short, but it is kind of funny. I was I was losing by about 2 points, maybe a point and a half in the waning seconds of the Eagles game. I had nobody playing in that game. My opponent had Jalen Hurts. We get -3 points for an interception. So I was up about 2 points. And then with 10 seconds to go, my opponent who had Jalen Hurts lost 3 points after the interception, and I ended up winning by a couple points. So I thought I was lost. I thought I was complete. I actually thought that I was losing by more than 3 points. So I thought that even the interception didn't change the score. And then after the pick, I went online and I checked the score and found out that I actually won. So it's a bad beat for my buddy, Dan Fisher. Sorry, Dan. But apparently through some league sources, I found out that he was not pleased in that moment. Pretty upset, pretty pissed, maybe dropped a few F-bombs to a friend of mine. So again, I'm sorry, Dan. I'll make sure to text you to listen to this pod so you can hear this. But sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles,
That's a definition of a classic bad beat right there. Losing on an interception.
Or it's good fortune, depending on your perspective,
I like to take the negative approach because it's funnier.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, and I don't want to get on a long tangent. I lost a fantasy football game on the Monday Night Miracle pass from Brett Favre to Antonio Brown against the Vikings. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh.
So, yeah, I lost on that play. So nothing gets – and I had passed out. I was on the couch. I passed out. I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning with drool running down my face, and I checked the score. I don't even know if I had a phone back then. I think I went online and checked and found out that I lost, and found out I lost to my friend Mike Rubin, who is still in my league. And it's a fun memory that we share, even all these years later.
I got one that kind of beats that a little bit. So do you remember Jonas Gray for the Patriots?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I was up by 40 points, and then that game happened. Guess who happened to have Jonas Gray playing? The guy I was going against. Not only beat me, knocked me out of the playoffs, and then Jonas Gray fell off the freaking face of the earth after that because he slept in. He's a
right, and he was that game got him on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, and then he never played like a down in the NFL again because he's an idiot wrapped in a moron.
I'm sure he'll be happy that you feel so. You don't like Jonas Gray, the Chiefs, and what was the other team?
Titans.
Cowboys.
No, Titans. I mean, I clown on the Cowboys, but I don't despise them. That's actually Burgess. That reminds me, we got to do our top 5 hated franchises. We didn't do our BTT goats list. That I gotta bring that up again. So I got a whole plethora of teams. Manish, over the years, my despise for certain teams has been like a roller coaster. Where I mean, Jets are always up there. Giants, I'm still bitter for 2 big freaking reasons with them. Indianapolis was there forever when Peyton Manning was there, but. Yeah, right now Tennessee is just on my shit list because of what they did to Vrabel. I think he's too good of a coach, and I don't like Tennessee. So I hope you're wrong, Manish. I hope you're wrong.
You missed this summer when he went at the Jaguars.
What are you getting against the Jaguars?
No, I have nothing against the Jaguars. I made a simple comment saying that Trevor Lawrence hasn't proven that he's good yet. Don't take this out of context, Jacksonville fans. For the love of God, don't come after me again. All I said was that Trevor Lawrence hasn't proven to me that he is like a world beater yet. And the torches and pitchforks came for me from freaking Jacksonville of all places on Twitter, where they're like, "This fucking guy, we're gonna get him." Blah, blah, blah. Like, how dare you talk about T-Law like that? I'm sitting there going, T-Law, like Ty Law hasn't played for the Patriots in forever, and they're like, "No, that's our quarterback." I'm like, oh, so I had to defend myself. And then, of course, he got paid, and now they're 0-2. So suck it, Jacksonville. Patriots have a better record than you.
Oh, man. Well, episode 44 is in the books. This was a fun one. Cannot wait to do it again next week with the two of you. Manish, really, again, happy to have you aboard with us full time. We can't wait to see where this goes. We got a lot of good things coming. And like I said, all you listeners out there, just hop on and just get ready to roast us for our picks because it's going to come. So, as always, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Peace.
Later.